Hello there, my name is Bounds and I'll be showing you how to make a Hollow Knight interactive map or similar to it, right? So we're going to start, we're going to make a new scene, a 2D scene. We're going to name this map container and we're going to also add a new node and it's going to be a child and we're going to be adding a canvas layer. Under that canvas layer, we're going to add sorry, I'm just deleting old scripts. Under that canvas layer, we're going to be adding a GUI control node, and you can tell if it's a GUI control node if it's green. And also, we're going to make sure that it's under the canvas layer, a child of that. We're going to add another control node under that control node. We're gonna make sure that the mouse filter is set to ignore on the first control node, and we're gonna go back to the second control node. We're gonna rename it map underscore container. And we're going to add a new node. It's going to be a texture rect. We're going to rename that to map because that's going to be the pre-drawn map. And under that map, we're going to add a sprite 2D. And we're going to rename that player marker. This will be the marker to display where the player is. And we're going to add a animation player. We're going to rename this map animations. And this is going to hold the animations to fade in and fade out the map. So we're going to go to the first control. We're going to make sure it's anchored to full rect. Then make sure that the map container is anchored to center. And we're going to drag the texture of the map to the map texture rect. We're going to make sure that the anchor of that map is also centered, right? And we're going to drag our player marker icon to the player marker. And this is just me. You can adjust scale. You can either make it big or small. We're going to go back to our map rect, texture rect. We're going to make sure that the mouse filter is set to ignore. And after all that, we are going to go back to our map container parent. We're going to add a script to this. We're going to create a script actually. It's going to extend node and we're going to make sure to apply a export variable of the player, which is going to take in a character body 2D. We're going to add another variable of pixels per unit. This is going to take in a integer of 4.0. Also a export variable called canvas, which is going to take in our canvas layer, and a map container variable, which is going to take a control node, and that's going to be our map underscore container. And we're also going to have a min underscore zoom float of 0.5 and a max zoom, right? So this will determine how, minimum the zoom can be and how, the maximum zoom can be. So like zooming in and out. And of course, we're going to have another variable called zoom speed. If you wanted to zoom in fast or zoom in slow. But for now, I'm just going to put it as 0.1. I'm going to drag the map. We're going to drag the player marker. We're going to drag the map and the animation player. We're going to make a isVisible variable or Boolean variable. We're going to default it to false. We're also going to make another variable called drag active equal to false. We're going to make another variable of drag origin. This is going to be equal to vector 2, and it's going to have no x and y coordinates. And we're going to make another variable called zoom level with a float of 1.0 and a variable of current zoom level. We're going to make that to 1.0. And now we're going to do a unhandled input function. So if event is action pressed, UI underscore map underscore toggle, right? And we're going to call this toggle map function, and we're going to return it. Next, we're going to do if this is not, if not is visible, then we'll return. This is just an edge case. If the event is input event mouse button, we're also going to add another if statement. So if event dot button underscore index is equal to mouse button. Wheel up, and if the event is pressed, would call the zoom level equal to, we're going to be clamping this zoom level plus 0.1 and adding the minimum zoom and the maximum zoom. We're also going to make sure that the scale of map underscore container is equal to factor 2.1. We're going to times that by the zoom level. And we're going to have another if, but we're going to do elif. And we're going to make sure that the button index is equal to mouse wheel down and the event is pressed. We're going to copy the ones from above, which is zoom level and the map container, but we're going to minus the zoom level because we're going to be zooming out, right? After all that, we're going to have if event dot button underscore index is equal to the left mouse button. We're going to make sure that the dragging is active and that event is pressed. And if that drag is active, we're going to print out that the dragging is started. Next, we're going to make sure that the drag origin is equal to the mouse position. So we're going to get the mouse position and we're going to make that the drag origin. And we're going to have a elif if the event is an input event or input mouse button and the dragging is active. We are going to add a variable and sorry, let me just indent this and make this more spacious and easier to read. So we're going to make a mouse position variable. We're gonna, get it the same way as the drag origin. We're gonna make sure it's equal to the get viewport dot get mouse position. So this will get the mouse position, and we're gonna make a delta variable. We're gonna equal that to the mouse position, and we're gonna minus that by the drag origin. We're also going to make sure that the map container's position is equal to the delta, right? So this will enable the dragging to work, right? And we're going to make sure that the origin is equal to the mouse position. After all that, we can start making the process function, and if this map is visible, we can start updating the player marker. We're going to name it update player marker, and that's going to be the function. So every frame it's going to be updating the marker. We're going to make a function called toggle map. We're going to print out that the map has been toggled, and we're just going to add if the map is visible, then it's visible. We're also going to make sure we set the process of the unhandled input to is underscore visible. When I have a if the map is visible, we're going to update the player marker. And we're going to make sure that the canvas is true to being visible when we toggle the map. And we're going to be playing the fade in animation when we toggle the map. And we press tab again, we're going to be playing the fade out animation. Now we're going to be making the update underscore player marker function. This is going to be taking the, sorry, let me just fix this syntax error. That's because I did not put event. Yeah, so it's input event mouse button. Back to our update player marker function, we're going to make a variable called map underscore position. We're going to make this equal to our player global position. We're going to divide it by our pixel per unit. Our map position is going to equal the vector 2 offset, right? So I'm going to be putting my offset 50/50. You can adjust it how you want it. I'm going to make the player marker position equal to the map position. So once we have that, we're going to make our zoom map, and our zoom map function is going to be taking a float called factor, and we're going to make a zoom underscore level equal. We're going to be clamping that zoom level by the float factor, and we're going to be adding the minimum zoom and the maximum zoom. We're also going to be scaling our map container again to a vector 2, and we're going to do it as 1, and we're going to do that with the zoom underscore level. So once we have that, we're going to drag our canvas layer to our canvas layer, our map container to our map container. I'm going to go back to our tutorial scene. I'm going to instantiate the map container scene. I'm going to make sure to drag my character or my player to my player export variable. And we're going to go back to our map container. We're going to go to our animation player. I'm going to make a new animation called fade in. I'm going to go to my texture map. I'm going to go to visibility. I'm going to use the modulate function, change it to 0. And I keyframe that, and I'm going to revert it to 255. But as you can see, it's not doing the player markers, so I messed up. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to be using the control node for the animation. So I'm choosing control, going to the visibility. I'm going to modulate it from 0, keyframe it from 0 to 255. So it's, fading in everything. I'm going to duplicate that animation, just name it fade out. I'm going to switch the positions of the modulate keyframes, and it should, do the opposite. So it's fading out. Once we have that, we can go back to our tutorial scene. You can see moving my player around. If I press tab, my map opens. Now your map may not look the same, like your player marker might not be in the same position. You can go to the script code and just mess with the X and Y for the vector 2 player marker position. And you can see that the drag is printing drag started, although it's not visually working when I left click and move it around. Change it to mouse motion, maybe this will fix it. It's still not working. But it's still printing. So I found the error. I just accidentally indented the last elif, and that was making sure that if the drag was active, it wouldn't be able to drag, right? So yeah, so once you do that, you unindent the last elif statement, you're able to drag the map around, and when you move around, you're able to drag the map around, you're able to zoom in and zoom out, right? And you can adjust these variables on the map container script. So what we have here is the website called .draw.io, and I'm going to make a rectangle shape. I'm going to color code this to look red and match the color of my area. And I'm going to make sure that this rectangle has an outline of black. I'm going to position this to my upper left of my diagram. I'm going to copy that. I'm going to paste it, move it more to the right. And I'm going to copy that again and paste it. And I'm going to make sure that I resize it down just so that I can connect both of the areas. And I'm going to add some text here. I'm going to rename this to starting area where my character starts. And I'm going to add another text for the other area, and that's going to be the boss area. Right? So once you have that down, you can see it matches my tutorial area in Godot. Kind of looks similar. You can play around with it just to make sure that it looks identical or nearly identical. And I'm gonna make sure to save this my map as a PNG, and I'm gonna save it to my downloads. And once you've done that, you're good to go back to Godot and go to the map container and make sure to replace the texture rect And we can go back to our tutorial scene and run the tutorial scene. If I press tab and I'm moving my player around, you can see my player is identical to the map, right? And I can zoom in, scroll wheeling in. I can left click, drag it around, and I can zoom out, drag it around, and just a interactive map, right? And this is pretty much it for the map. Make sure to like and subscribe and comment down below if you have any other questions.